I do believe I have a light in my eye because I have love all in me and around me that surrounds me. I did have dead eyes. They were vacant because I believed I was nothing. And unless you've experienced the feeling of being nothing, that's different than having nothing. Feeling a belief that you are nothing is, can you think of anything worse? I can't. I've never experienced anything worse than feeling like I was nothing. So today, to know that I connect with people immediately and I try to shine whatever love I have into them and I try to deep whatever love they want to give to me into me, and knowing that I've transformed from dead eyes to light eyes, the way that you said it, I think is powerful.
Welcome to the MindHack podcast, where we explore the psychology of self-improvement and mindset to help you live a happier and more fulfilled life. I'm your host, Cody McLean, and today I'm honored to have Trish Kendall. Trish is an inspirational speaker and the founder of Enduring Success Strategies, a company that focuses on relationship development for companies. Her journey is one of the most powerful transformations you'll ever hear, taking her from severe childhood trauma and addiction to a life of success, impact, and boundless love. Trish has made it her mission to inspire people to overcome the darkest of obstacles and create enduring success. Her philosophy is built on 5 transformative choices: making a first choice, committing to a two-way agreement, building trust, creating community, and embracing love. Today, we're going to dive deep into Trish's incredible story, the lessons she's learned, and the practical strategies she uses to inspire others to have lasting change of their own. Trish, welcome to the show.
Oh, Cody, thank you. I've been so looking forward to spending this time with you. I'm so glad to be here with you.
And so, Trish, you've achieved what many would consider the American dream. You have a successful career, a loving family, and the ability to impact thousands of lives. Yet, you often begin your story from what you call the bottom of the bottom. Can you take us back to that moment and help us understand how your definition of success emerged from there?
Oh my gosh. When I'm speaking to audiences, I go back to that moment every time. And it still hits me to this day that I'm talking about the same person. That is or was me. I was 20 years old and I was a moment away from killing myself through an intentional overdose of crystal meth addiction. And at that point, I was nothing. I mean, I had nothing. I had no hope, no school, no job, no friends, no love, nothing. And in a moment, my older sister called me. She found where I was squatting. I saw on the old caller ID box, if you remember those old caller ID box, I saw area code 254, and I knew that was her in Killeen, Texas. And that was the second that I chose to pick up the phone, which that I speak about is my first choice. And everything, thank goodness, launched from there. But picking up the phone was the profound choice I made, which was I don't want to die. I didn't want to die. And so I did. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that go on after that. That's when I was 20 and I'm 51 now. And I went on a 25-year journey. It really took me 25 years and 5 critical choices that I made throughout those 25 years to reach the success that I have today, which is the belief and the conviction that I have enduring success that nobody can give me and nobody can take away. Like non-transitory success, that success that you can hold on to no matter what. Took me a long time to get there. But I did. And I made these choices and I had help along the way. Sometimes I took 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, but I kept on going.
And so you describe in your TEDx talk, you went from being able to you looked in the mirror and you couldn't recognize yourself, not because of what addiction had done to you physically, but because of something deeper. You mentioned something what you call dead eyes,
Mm.
where people meet you, they often comment, and today it seems like people meet you and they often comment on the light in your eyes. Can you tell us what happened between those two mirror moments?
Yes. And thank you for pointing that out because I do believe I have a light in my eye because I have love all in me and around me that surrounds me. I did have dead eyes. They were vacant. Because I believed I was nothing. And unless you've experienced, which I know you have, the feeling of being nothing, that's different than having nothing. Feeling a belief that you are nothing is, can you think of anything worse? I can't. I've never experienced anything worse than feeling like I was nothing. So today, to know that I connect with people immediately and I try to shine whatever love I have into them and I try to take whatever love they want to give to me into me, and knowing that I've transformed from dead eyes to light eyes, the way that you said it, I think is powerful. I don't know, Cody. Sometimes I just don't know, like, how did I finally choose to see what was always inside of me? And I can't get into the whole, story, but I was in my 40s before I truly made a choice to realize that we each have a boundless capacity to love. And I think light is love. That light is love. And we have a boundless capacity to give it and to receive it, but I had to embrace it. And once I did, that's when the light shined through authentically, not trying, like, it when somebody is shining and when somebody's just showing up pretending.
Mm.
And I probably pretended for a really long time. And I don't have to pretend.
Yeah, there's this Carl Jung quote that I like is that we are not what happened to us, we are what we choose to become. And it's reminiscent of when I was a young kid, I thought I was nothing. I thought I would never achieve anything in life. I thought I was stupid. I went to a school where I was made fun of and I wasn't in any of the AP classes and I felt like I was the odd cast. And I slowly started to question, well, what do successful people do? They read Forbes, they read articles, and so I started to read them online. And then I saw what do they do? They meditate, they exercise, they read. And so I slowly started to try to incorporate these habits into my daily routine. And then I remember looking back 6 months after just reading 30 minutes a day and realized how much more knowledge I have than I had 6 months ago. And it started this slow build of my own internal view of myself. And I went to Guatemala and I was interested in photography and I took some amazing photographs. And I realized, like, wait, I can actually be a photographer, or I can actually take good pictures. And then I was questioning, well, what else have I wanted to do? I always wanted to learn how to fly a plane. So 6 months later, I had a pilot's license and I could actually fly planes where I thought I would never be able to do something like that. And it made me realize at this point that there are so many people in this world that grow up without a mentor or advisor or somebody positive in their life that tells them, hey, you can do it. And we see so many people, I'm sure you encounter this so often in your team building work, is that it seems there's people that are intelligent, authentic, that have so much to offer this world, but yet they're stuck in this internal negative cycle where they don't have the confidence in themselves. Nobody ever told them, hey, look, hold your head up high. You can do this. You can do whatever you want to. And it seems like that's what we lack so often. How did you raise your head? How did you go from this horrible, abusive scenario to being able to see, hey, I'm Trish. I can do these things. I can be a successful person. I can live a happy life.
Well, first off, I appreciate you sharing how you did it because it's very similar. There's a reflection aspect of growth and giving us time and space to reflect on when we have created a win, when we have created a moment of success in our lives. What was it? How did we do it? And why not apply it now to this next one? You learned that you were a gifted photographer. Why can't I learn how to fly a plane? I can learn how to fly a plane. So I think that there is an element of reflection that helps to stir and spur growth. For me specifically, you laid it out very nicely at the very beginning. I made 5 critical choices. I didn't know I was making those I mean, I knew I made the choices, but I didn't put them into this 5-choice framework, until I really reflected on how did I do this? How did I do this? And that's oh, here's what I did. So when I picked up the phone when my sister called, yes, that was the first choice. That was the most important choice at the time because it was life or death. But at that moment in time, I didn't know how to live an ordinary life. I mean, I was a full-on drug addict. My friends were gang members, drug dealers. I was, hung out with people that were then in prison for murder. I mean, this was a bad scene.
Mm.
It was my scene. That's who I was. And so just because I picked up the phone didn't mean that I was going to live a good life. So I didn't have confidence that I could live an ordinary life because I didn't even know what ordinary was because of the things that you've experienced as well in your childhood. We didn't have someone showing us what a normal family life is, or what it means to follow through with a commitment, or what it means to have a family dinner. So the second critical choice that I made is my sister had me come live with her and her husband and their 2 young kids. But living with them was conditional. I had to enter into a 2-way agreement with them. It was a near contractual agreement. And I was 21. And I have since thought about that agreement, and I have carried forward for 25 years the idea of 2-way agreements because we enter into 2-way agreements all the time. The question is, do we commit to it? And the agreement between me and my sister had very specific tenets to it. I agreed to go to AA every week. I agreed to see a counselor. I agreed to participate in family meals 3 times a day. I agreed to family meetings on Friday. And then there are things that she agreed to. And I tell you that because me going from where I was to where I'm at didn't just take me. It took someone else to choose to care enough to help me. And not by just giving me a place to live, but really help me experience what boundaries felt like. Help me experience what a little bit of ordinary, with my little niece and nephew pouring Cheerios in the morning and spilling milk. Like, as ordinary as that, without somebody erupting and, getting, whatever, physically hurt because of it. So that is one example. That was the second critical choice I made, was committing to a 2-way agreement. That significantly helped me in my move from where I was to where I'm at. And I've continued on thinking through and executing and committing to 2-way agreements today.
And I think you emphasize the aspect that you decided to answer that phone call, and then you also had to then commit to going having mentorships and therapy and counseling, and that is a lot of commitments. and it's easy to fall off the wagon. I know my mother is that she was an alcoholic before she died, and she died because of it. But I remember would try to pour the liquor down the sink, and she would just go out and buy more alcohol. And there was a point early in my childhood that I realized that you can't help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves. Like every decision has to be made internally, and you can't really help make that person help themselves unless they have the internal strength and the will to persevere. And I know so many who have addictions or uh, negative life scenarios. It seems to be the hardest thing to decide that enough is enough, and I'm going to double down and make this change, no matter how hard it is. Is there anything in particular that you can remember? What was that moment of strength, that ambition, that thought that gave you the strength to even answer the phone call?
Oh, well, the strength to answer the phone call, it truly was a the way I describe it, I don't know that I would say strength, Cody. It was like a jolt. When I was crouched down on the dirty, grimy bathroom floor with a needle positioned in my last vein and the phone rings and I see 3 numbers, it wasn't strength, it was a jolt. And I still chose to pick up the phone, but had that phone not rang, I would not have reached for the phone to call. And so the strength for me came afterwards in the little moments of when I lived with my sister, the little moments of choosing to live. And picking up the phone was a choice to not die. The little moments of choosing to live manifested in uh, my little niece and nephew waking me up in the morning and crawling up to my bed and asking me to watch Rugrats and me turning on the TV with them. That was like, I could have said, let me go to sleep, but it was a moment that I chose to live. And my sister and I going for walks, in the like whatever around we lived in, her husband was in the military, so we were on the army base. Going for a walk. I mean, how normal does that sound? It wasn't normal for me. I had no strength, and no physical strength. And I went for a walk. That was choosing a moment to live. And what started happening is that what I got back from that started to fill those little holes and gaps inside of me that I had used drugs to fill. Because I started using drugs not to fit in or to party or to have fun. I went severe, heavy and severe very quickly because I had been sexually abused by my dad for 7 years. I was a freaking mess. And the only way to deal with the hole that I felt in my heart as a 13-year-old little girl was to stick drugs in my arms, smoke it, shoot it, whatever. Once I started to experience living, that stuff started filling me up. And I wanted more of that. And my sister is very smart. She was very smart. She knew what I needed to experience such that I wasn't looking for a fix.
No, that's powerful. I know raising up in a traumatic background and having parents, let alone if they're not available, or worse, of course, if they sexually abuse you, that 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 seems I would probably relate that to this attachment
Yeah.
issue, right? Where we're thriving, we we crave somebody just to show us that they care. And being in my own dysfunctional household, I remember there would be these instances where I look back at it, just this little tiny habit that I would develop where if I was sick and I would go to school, I would try to cough a little bit more. I would try to get somebody, maybe a teacher, maybe a friend, to feel sorry for me, to say to show empathy. And I didn't realize I would be doing this in these small ways. And this is like a little habit where you might go out of your way to try to be extra hurt as a means of trying to gain empathy for others to fill that lack of love that you didn't receive as a child. And uh, and so my advice, something that I've learned uh, is that often those who are in the darkest depths of despair, if you were to call them, all they really need and want is somebody to show that they care about you. They just need to know that they're not alone. You don't have to solve all their problems, but I think it's having the capacity to be there for somebody else that is one of the most important things that we can do for others. And I know that you've talked about this boundless capacity for love. And there was a recent speaking engagement in which the CEO approached you in tears, saying that your message completely changed the way that they view leadership. And I know we're going from a personal to a more business aspect, and I would love for you to expand on this aspect of this boundless capacity for love, because it seems like you came from a place where there was no love, where you're craving any form of love. How did you manage the shift, and what was it that you said to the CEO?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what I said to the CEO that I say to everybody. And because you either embrace this and embrace me, or not. Uh, I believe with my whole heart that we create enduring success for our organizations, for our teams, for our communities, and for ourselves when we choose to give all of our love, the verb, the action, not love the emotion, which is not a choice. Love the action, which is a choice, which you just described from an empathy standpoint. So when we choose to give all of our love and when we choose to receive all the love that others want to give us, if we all showed up in every interaction with that choice, giving it all, not withholding, and I know there are countless reasons. Cody and I know this. We've lived this. There are countless reasons to withhold love. Or maybe let me say that differently. There's countless reasons why we withhold love. So it's not easy to make the choice to give all. But when we do, that is when things change. That is when we can grow together as an organization or as a community or as a family. So that's my message. That's what I said. And the CEO embraced it. I mean, he had me speaking to his workforce. I just left a keynote last week and it never, and I'll go back to more about boundless love here in a second, but whenever I'm done delivering a keynote or an intimate workshop, but specifically I want to talk about when there's a large audience, there's always a line of people that want to speak to me afterwards. And what they want is to share. They want a moment to share. And there's like Cody and I could give you all the statistics. Everybody has experienced something in their lives, or they have a loved one that has experienced or is experiencing difficulty, challenges, obstacles in their lives. That could be divorce, it could be drug addiction, it could be mental health, it could be abuse, it could be death, it could be bankruptcy, right? Should I like it goes on and on and on and on and on. So we each have an experience. It's it's that most of the time we don't realize or allow ourselves to realize that the other person has an experience too. And so we become, disconnected as human beings. Where if we just show up in the interaction with the belief that you have an experience and I have an experience, I'm going to give you love and I'm going to receive the love you want to give me, we would just become so much more close. So this one person came up to me after the keynote and all he said, and he had tears in his eyes, and he had waited 20 minutes to come and talk to me. And the only thing he said is, I just want you to know that I will keep calling my sister until she chooses to answer. And that's what I say in my speech, that my sister said, Trish, I always called you. You just finally chose to answer. And here's this man in a corporate audience in a suit waiting to talk to me for 20 minutes and coming up and and him being inspired, moved, and sad. But I will keep calling my sister until she chooses to answer. I mean, Cody, that one moment with that person, he chose to give me love by sharing that with me. You know what I mean? Like, that's tough. That's hard. That's raw. That's intimate. And he shared that with me. I created a space where this person felt that not only could he share that with me, but he was remotivated to keep calling his sister. Anyways, I probably just went off on a tangent, but that is an example of giving love. How I got there, how I got from a little girl who lost the ability to love to the woman who I am now, is out and inspires the masses to give love. That's the 25-year journey. But my ability to, I'm going to actually pause there for a second and see if you want to chime in with anything before I tell you more of my journey there.
No, I'd love for you to continue.
So when I reflect from the moment I picked up the phone, which is the first choice, and then the moment I made my fifth choice, which is, and from the TEDx talk, when I chose to step inside the stable with Lily. When I stepped inside the stable, that was the manifestation of giving all my love. That's a good 25 years in between. So, but what I learned is that each choice I made, committing to a two-way agreement, building trust, creating community, finally embracing love, but each of those choices expanded my ability to love. Each of those choices helped me experience that someone loved me. At first, it was my sister and my niece and nephew. When I built trust, and that was my third critical choice, building trust, I learned that the people that I worked with and for actually loved me. Like there was empathy and care and love. Now, I only received it so much. I would only open myself and give so much. But then my fourth critical choice, when I expanded and created community through the marathon girls that I tell a story about, I expanded my ability to give and receive love. But I always thought there was a cap. I always thought there was a limit. And so probably like you as a young boy and even probably a young man, I was afraid to give it because I didn't, because it's like, well, if I give it, will I have anything left? If I give all the love that I have, what's going to be left for me to feel? And what I had to experience is that giving love increases your capacity to love. You know what I mean? Like love begets love. The more you give, the more you have to give. The more you receive, the more you want to receive. It's this beautiful, escalating experience. And now I embrace it.
There's a great book by a sociologist or a social scientist named Adam Grant called Give and Take. And it really demonstrates scientifically that when you offer yourself or service, or you give to others without any expectation of return, you end up getting a great deal in return. Not everybody's going to do it, but when you do that, it not only helps you feel better, because you're no longer focusing on yourself. When you focus on others, others have a tendency to give back to you in ways that you can't even dream of. And certainly having a capacity to love others with a understanding that everybody has a story, everybody has some negative thing going on in their life. And so to if somebody shows up and maybe they're not in the best of mood, to not assume that they are just a mean person. Maybe something went on that day that caused them to be in that mood. And so being able to view your perspective of loving first is one of the most powerful things I think we can do as a human species, especially in a world that is just becoming so divided more than ever.
Yeah, like now more than ever, the one thing we can control is how we show up in our interaction with another human being. Like, I'm sure there's a lot more that we can control, but that is one thing that we absolutely can control. When I am working with teams, big audiences, small audiences, doesn't matter. I always explore to hear from other people examples of giving love, because giving love, the verb manifests differently for different people in different circumstances at different times, culturally, generationally, experience wise. And so I love to hear from people. And what you just said, something you just said, I hear often, which is giving love is manifests in giving people the benefit of the doubt. And that's tangible. A lot of times, especially sometimes with corporate, when I'm working with corporate audiences, we got to transition from my story to what's tangible and applicable for that workforce. And once I lay out the environment through my keynote, the environment of giving and receiving and vulnerability and sharing, then we can get into conversation. And so, like, there's lots of examples of how love manifests at work, at home, in our community. j- Like, it's all around us. And back to the reflection thing, I think if we reflect a little bit on the choices that we make, we can do it more. So that might be my little shout out is reflect on how you give love the verb and write it down.
Now, and I would have a question for you, but I think I'm gonna ask it and answer it, and then you can add on to it. Is it if we offer boundless love to others, others can take advantage of that. They can take advantage of us. They can use us in ways that are manipulative. If you're dealing with somebody who has like borderline personality disorder, you can end up in a relationship that it just beats you down. And in some ways, it can be difficult to exit from these relationships. Or if you trust somebody and then they screw you, and you're wondering, I mean, how can I ever love somebody else again? How can I trust others? How can I give love to others when I've given it so much and it's just been taken away from me? And I'm sure you might have a better answer here, but in my experience, having been in a lot of bad relationships, personal and business, is that there is no other option. We are in this world to exist with others, and you can't really go throughout life never trusting, never loving, never being able to be there for others. If you do it enough, you will find the people who are able to give back their love in a way that even exceeds the love you've offered and fills you up to a point where you can kind of see the light. And I think sometimes we're always, life is always a series of ups and downs. You're going to have bad people that, for their own reasons of their own trauma that they have yet to resolve, they use you in ways that are not helpful. And ultimately, my motto is I forgive, but I never forget. And there's enough people, there's billions of people in this world. So if somebody does something to you negative, forgive them. Don't hold that, because that's draining on you. But also seek a different relationship. Don't go back to that old relationship. Um, and so I'm curious if you have any answer or thought on that. How do you give love?
Your answer to me is perfect. I can share a story. I can share a story of me trying to help my 14-year-old daughter through things like this. That I'll give you this little story. I don't want to. I think the way you answered it is perfect in my mind and heart. And just like you said at the end, we can choose who we spend our time with, who we invest our time with, who we give our love to. If we're going to be in this interaction, I'm going to give love. That love could also be a boundary. And I've said to my daughter since she was 7 or 8 and all the, kid girl stuff that happens. And she growing up as normal can be, and normal also means dealing with normal girl, kid, being included, being excluded, being kicked out of a tribe, the whole thing. And I've said to her for years, reflect on how you feel when you are with the people you're with. And if it's at night, if you want to journal it, if you just want to think about it, and like since she was 7. What I've said to her, which is super simple, is your glass half full or does your glass feel half empty? And just reflect on it. And then you get to choose who you spend time with. And there you go. You know what? She does. Now she's 14, almost 15. And so she's really taken that to heart. And she says to me, she's like, Mom, I know when I'm with so-and-so and so-and-so, I'm really filled up. And I really don't have a lot of time in my day with homework and sports and everything. So I'm really not going to spend time with so-and-so. So whatever. That's a very, normal, minimal example. But guess what? There's a whole bunch of people in our lives that are living a very normal and minimal life, and they get to choose who they spend their time with. But we must always give and receive love when we're in the interaction.
On the definition of success, there is a photo on your website of you sitting on your front porch drinking coffee on a regular Tuesday. And you've called this image of success more meaningful than any achievement or accolade. I'm wondering, what do you see in that ordinary moment that others might be missing?
Well, I find the ordinary quite extraordinary. And it goes all the way back to I didn't know how to live an ordinary life. And I had no confidence that I could. And I learned, well, let me change that. I found joy in the ordinary. And so there are plenty of times, Cody, that I lose sight of that. 100%. In the chaos of life, in business ups and downs, in parenting ups and downs, in my health journey ups and downs. But when I choose to be in the moment and realize what I have created, I am moved by the extraordinary aspect of the ordinary life that I have created. And like, what else could I possibly want? The safety, the love, commitment, joy, hope, comfort, struggles, but struggles within a environment that I can figure it out, And so sitting with my coffee, which by the way, I'm a huge coffee drinker. So addiction, I have loved my morning coffee. It is such a joy to me. So sitting with the coffee and just being in the moment and in a place with my heart and mind that I can appreciate the extraordinary aspect of that. I hope I have many, 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 many more Tuesday mornings that are just like that.
Yeah, it's so as somebody who went through my own version of right. You come from nothing, and then all of a sudden, I sell multiple companies, and a story that I often go back to is when I sold my first company, and the CEO was shaking my hand, asking me how it felt, and I was like, "Yeah, I feel okay." And in my head, I was still just thinking of all the things that we had to do on that checklist in order for me to hand the keys over. And when I got back home, I mean, I went on Amazon and I bought my apartment had nothing, so I started just buying a bunch of art and a big TV and an Xbox and all these nice things. And looking back at it is I never really I never really had like a reflection moment where I was like, wow, I've come so long from where I was. I never thought I would be here. I never really had this internal sense of achievement, of gratitude. And I think so often now we're in this achievement trap where it's actually one of my next episodes that I recorded doing a solo episode, and it's on this aspect where we work so hard to achieve this thing, we climb that top of the mountain, and then we realize that it's empty, that the destination was the journey, and we don't have the capacity to really feel that sense of gratitude when we're on that journey. Is that something that you've at all experienced or have advice for? How do we avoid this feeling of emptiness? How can we try to appreciate where we are more so than where we hope to be?
I think it's the moments of, being present in the moment and realizing what you've created you because we each create what we have. And being present, being in the moment, huge believer on reflection. However that manifests, that could be writing something down, it could just be during meditating. I don't meditate, but, it could be when you're working out or you're running, reflecting. And then I don't want this to be like this is my only answer, but my strongest answer is always if we are cognizant of our choice when we are with someone, if we're cognizant that we are giving the love that we have, maybe that means we're listening. Maybe that means we're giving the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that means we're holding someone's hand in silence because they're grieving. Maybe that means we've picked up the phone and called, someone that we haven't talked to in a long time. Maybe that means we're calling versus texting. Those are those are all actions of love. And so if we just allow ourselves to realize that that's an action and a choice and you made it, be in the moment with that. Because I think it's incredibly hard not to get sucked into the toughness and the challenge of the journey, or that achievement trap. I love the way that you put that. Oh my gosh, I got to achieve this. Oh my gosh, I got to achieve that. For me, I'm like, just let me have a meaningful moment. And if I can have and create through my actions more meaningful moments than not, then I'm focused more on the journey than the destination. Sometimes I don't do that, but I catch myself on it. And when I catch myself on it, that's when I feel filled up. You know it. You know when you're making those choices that matter. So just like let yourself feel it.
Yeah, and I love this thought experiment where say you're with you can give your loved one one of two options where you can be with them for say a whole day, but you're gonna be partially on your phone or doing some work, or you can be with them for 1 hour and just pure presence. They're gonna choose the 1 hour every single time, and so the importance is on the intention. Who are you supposed to be right now? A mother, a father, a CEO? What is the intention? What is the most effective thing that you can do? And to show up and to realize that every moment you're showing up for somebody, maybe that's just yourself, but you're showing up for somebody to have a certain intention. And the most important thing we can do is to understand that and bring that into our awareness.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And oh my gosh, I mean, an hour, being completely present with someone for an hour, that is a deliberate choice and not easy. Because you could spend an hour with someone and your brain is everywhere except with that person, right? I, I I mean, it is actually probably a mental and emotional workout to stay present with that person, whether it's yourself or someone else, to experience that. And man, I mean, I need to do that more. It's just because I know that that matters. And I know, and this goes back to what you're saying about Adam Grant. Uh, when I give that way, I get. And I'm not doing it to get, but I do. I get so much in return when I give of myself that way.
Yeah, and recently you received a letter from someone who heard you speak 3 years ago. They kept it in their wallet that entire time, and they would reread that during tough moments. Uh, what do you think makes your message stick with people long after the applause has faded?
That we are all humans with an innate capacity to give and receive love. You can't question that. We each know that. We know we are meant to love. And what makes me so credible is that I've created the success I have in my life by not traditional credentials. That makes me so credible is that I've created this enduring success by choosing the one thing that every single person can choose: to love. Everybody can. Everybody has the power to do it. There's no discrimination. There's no generational gap. There's no education gap. There's no circumstance gap. We each have the power to make that choice. And that's what resonates with people because they can walk away and choose immediately if they're going to do it or not.
Yeah, and there's also this aspect of giving back, right? Is having an impact on others. Do you still feel anything from when somebody comes up to you and says they reread a letter in their pocket, or that you've had an impact on them? How much of that would you say drives your current like ambition of wanting to give back?
Yeah, I crave those moments. There are plenty of times that I get hung up on the rat race. It's a business. I am running a business, right? So you have to run this business and get more keynotes and get more workshops and work with more teams and one day write a book and do this content and do the videos and oh my gosh, I got to do all this. Am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things? Like all of that. And when one person sends me an email, waits to talk to me after a speech, to finds me on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's out of the blue that I didn't talk to somebody, but they found me. And when I get those messages, that fills me up so much. And that is what motivates me to keep on keeping on. And it matters more than anything. So I crave those moments. I crave them. And it very much, helps validate my decision to move away from my traditional business development work that I did for a really long time, and I had an incredible career doing that. And I think to myself, I helped people, but I didn't help people. And now I feel like I could change people's lives. And I think I do.
Yeah. And I know like the number one job that I believe right now Gen Z would say if you asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They want to be an influencer. But I know, say, 6, 7 years ago, the number one was to be an inspirational speaker. And it seems like you kind of feel that. It seems like you get up there, you speak, spoken in front of just thousands and thousands of people and TED and conferences, etc. How did you get to this point where you first developed your ability to speak? You developed your confidence to speak in front of a large audience, and then you start getting huge commission fees, I presume, from companies who pay you to speak at their events. That seems like that I know it's stressful with all the traveling and having to balance that, but I know that there's so many, even including myself, that see that as kind of like a dream.
Well, and I
What
love
advice
it.
would you give?
I love all of it. I love traveling. I 2 weeks ago, I was East Coast, West Coast, East Coast in a week, and I was texting my husband going, "I'm so tired and I'm so happy." So I love it. And I also get time to be home. So I've been home all week and I've been picking up my kids and I get to pick up Sammy from the bus stop. So like I balance it in whatever way I do. Uh I became a professional speaker 5 years ago, meaning my business is I get paid to speak to large audiences, medium audiences, small audiences. I also help clients create personal and team development, leadership development. It's all an offshoot from what we're talking about right now. But if my keynote, includes the 5 choices, you could see how that can lead to working with teams on, well, how do you build trust? Well, how do you create community? So, so then I work with clients on things after that. Leading up to making it my business 5 years ago, I have been a speaker. I'm not going to say a professional speaker because I didn't get paid to speak, but in my professional world, I would speak at conferences, I would speak in boardrooms, I would do internal training, and I always had the desire to be an incredible speaker. And then along the way, I had help with the employers that I worked with. They would get me speaking coaches. So if I represented my company at a conference speaking to our clients, well, I had to like show up well. I had to be an effective, skilled speaker. So I had help doing all of that. But then when I decided to make this my business, that's something else because you're right. I mean, you are creating a product, a brand, and you're the brand, you're the product. And that product is a keynote, but the product isn't, the product is, for me, evoking an emotion amongst an audience and creating a conviction. Like that's what I'm being hired to do. So you got to have your shit
Yeah.
together to do that. I constructed my inspirational story on my own with my husband. He's an incredible writer. So I constructed the inspirational story and I started giving it to some nonprofits, which is really great because, it's, I didn't, I wasn't charging for it. It was a great way to practice. It was a great way for me to figure out how to put it all together. And then once I knew I pretty much had a sellable a sellable product, I hired, my speaking coach. He's still my speaking coach, Nick Morgan, Public Words, and he helped me really, really create, as he calls it, a kick-ass speech. And he really helped me with the physicality of it. We didn't change much to the structure of my signature speech. Since then, I now have 5 signature speeches. He coached me on my TED Talk. So the physicality of that talk, the movement of that talk. So I've had professional help. Just like if you're a business owner and you're going to hire somebody to help you with marketing, I hired somebody to do all my creative branding. Trish Kendall, Choose and Become, with the heart and the lightning bolt. That's not me. I wouldn't have figured that out. That is me. I wouldn't have been creative enough to figure out how to put that into a picture. So I did all the things that, business owners do. Hire the smart people. And then I'm a seller at heart. I've had a almost 30-year career in business development. And I believe that uh, my success as a seller is because I'm maniacally focused on creating enduring relationships. And those relationships then can manifest in working together. And so, I probably spend more time selling than I do delivering keynotes because because you're never done. You're never done nurturing relationships and finding another opportunity. And, so I spend a ton of time on all that.
Was there anything specific that, say when you first developed your speech, and say you did this on your own, you started working with nonprofits. Did you go around doing talks for free, and you had to pay for your own travel? What was like this transition, or did the person who helped you develop your brand, were they also somebody that was able to kind of act as like an agent, so that they were able to help you decide, say, how much you should charge? Because that seems to be a really difficult switch, going from giving, say, talks for free to having the confidence to charge for something. And this is not just for speaking, this is for any kind of online creators. Like if you're selling online digital content, it seems to be very difficult to sell something online unless you're somebody who just has no ethics or morals of any regard. Is that you sell something, but what often holds people back is the fear that what they're offering or what they're selling is not going to help people. It's not good enough.
Yeah. So how about this? If get over that fear or find something that is going to help them. I have such conviction that I change not all the lives, but I change lives. My conviction is so strong. I know what I deliver and I know the value of that. When I first was sharing my story, let's say sharing my story, and I did it for free for some nonprofit organizations. It was a very short amount of time, and it was a part of my plan to be like, I want to hone in what the story is, what the construct is, what the transitions are, how this flows. And so I sought after organizations that were meaningful to me. So the first speech that I ever gave was for the American Association of University Women. And that's the first time that I delivered like the full structure of what I would say my first signature, my V1 signature speech was. I knew though that that was a short stage in my business plan. So I entered into this business knowing that I was going to be paid for delivering, moving the audience, because what I'm delivering is moving the audience from what they believe today to what they need to believe in order to create enduring success for the organization, for communities, for families, and give them a pathway there. So I know the value to that. How I priced it, I absolutely got help with that. So Nick is one person. He helped me think through the pricing. And there's a spectrum, just like everything. There's a spectrum of pricing. And for me, I landed on the price that felt good for me, that kept me in a certain, like a certain brand. Like I compete, with certain people. And so I knew I needed to be at a certain level. And then probably 2 years after I launched the business, launched Enduring Success, I started working with two speaker bureaus. And I work with APB in Boston and I work with GDA in Dallas. And that took a long time to to make that happen. The majority of my speeches, though, are through my direct selling. They are through my direct relationships, people that I know or that I've met or that I want to meet. So the agencies are supplemental. I don't think any speaker should think or believe that agencies are going to make their business, because that's not how it works. Um, and I just said to myself a couple weeks ago, I should probably charge a little more. So I did say that. I did say that. I was like, maybe I should adjust now. But that's just a part of the business plan.
Mhm. And as we wrap up today's conversation, where would you, if somebody's interested in hearing more what you have to say, where should they go?
Oh, you're awesome. Thank you, Cody. You can go directly to my inspirational website, which is trishkendall.com. If you want to learn more about how I work with teams and leadership teams, my macro website is enduring-success.com. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's always the best way, Trish Kendall on LinkedIn. And I will get better. I will get better at TikTok soon.
Yeah. But but I want to take a moment and just acknowledge the profound impact and the research that I've done myself is seeing the impact that you've had on others, and it seems you've come a long way from those dead eyes in the mirror to becoming someone who just radiates such light and hope. It's more than inspiring. It's a testament to the power of those 5 choices that you talked about. And before we say goodbye, I have one final question. What would you say to someone listening right now who might be looking in the mirror and seeing those same dead eyes you once saw?
Pick up the phone when they call. That might be an actual phone call. It might be a knock at the door. It might be someone reaching out their hand to touch you. Pick up the phone.
Thank you so much, Trish.
Cody, thank you. Oh my gosh, I want to spend more time with you. We will figure it out somehow. Thank you for allowing me to be along your journey.